Everyone seems to have at least one gaming genre that resonates with them immediately upon mention. For me, platformers fit that bill. The flow state instilled by a well-designed platforming adventure is just unrivaled to me. Developer Sunny Peak's 2D platformer Symphonia stood out to me due to its solid visuals and swift movement, so I eagerly anticipated its release. And despite a few off-putting design choices, it's a pretty fun time. Symphonia takes place in a realm where music is the essence of life. However, the founders and their orchestra have disappeared, plunging the world into a deafening silence. Consequently, the protagonist violin player Philemon seeks to gather others to form a new orchestra, and in turn restore the world's life. The game's narrative isn't told through dialogue, with much of the context coming from the game's store page and certain in-game events. You may find a letter or two here communicating text directly, but that's mostly it. The motivation is sufficient, but you probably won't be focusing on the story in this adventure. Instead, Symphonia wastes little time showcasing its evident strengths, which just so happens to be its platforming. Symphonia features an intuitive moveset that expands slightly over time, presented within linear 2D stages that gradually increase in difficulty. It's all bolstered by gorgeous visuals, especially in certain areas and environments. The hazards and platforming puzzles aren't particularly inventive though, and genre fans will have undoubtedly seen these concepts executed before. However, Philemon's moveset creates a fresh approach to these obstacles. Your violin bow is a versatile tool used to bounce off the ground and grab onto ropes. The former is especially significant as bouncing off the ground in rapid succession builds horizontal momentum, which is necessary for progression. Symphonia's momentum mechanic is unique and bold in its execution, as its applications aren't immediately obvious. There's no significant visual cues to indicate the effect of building momentum. Instead, it's a subtle aid to reach ledges just out of the normal reach. The level design doesn't overly rely on this mechanic, so pulling it off at critical moments does feel rather rewarding. Throughout the adventure, new features are introduced to ensure that each locale isn't simply more of the same with different visuals. For example, a brief air twirl provides increased airtime, and a grapple lets you latch onto specific objects from afar. The level design then impressively retains its sense of identity while gradually evolving. Furthermore, the core level design becomes moderately challenging, making the few hours of playtime reach well-realized potential. Much of the platforming relies on timing jumps that often have traps in them, with something like the air twirls triggering their activations, enabling a more manual sense of player agency. And of course, given the game's theme, Philemon's violin is used, though strictly cinematically and to activate switches. Those yearning for a greater challenge should probably seek the optional areas within the stages. While progression is fairly linear, you will sometimes spot a side area or opening opposite the intending path, leading to a mini challenge area with special collectibles at their ends. In these sections, the game is far more demanding and strict, requiring you to push your abilities to their limits and think outside the box of typical progression. Thankfully, dying results to a rapid respawn at the start of the screen, saving time akin to games like Celeste. Symphonia does suffer from some noticeable bugs. There were a couple moments when I would just fall through the ground, causing what would have been a soft lock if I couldn't return to the title screen via pausing. These occasions were far and few between, so they didn't significantly impede the gameplay experience, but they are there. Another issue, though not a bug, concerns gameplay variants that are functionalities you unlock from the collectibles in the challenge areas. These are optional modifiers that you can apply mid-game to induce various effects, such as altering the game speed or applying invisibility. The gameplay variants are neat in concept, but the first one I unlocked was the double jump, and it caused confusion. Because of a collectible I couldn't grab without the double jump at the time, I assumed it was a natural upgrade in Philemon's moveset, yet future mandatory upgrades would have seemingly worked fine instead. It would have been appreciated if the optional nature of the gameplay variants was made clear from the start, instead of appearing like a strange upgrade activated from the pause menu. Symphonia is a welcome platformer to close out the year, boasting a delightfully endearing presentation coupled with an orchestral soundtrack based on the Romantic musical period. The brief playtime is full of well-executed gimmicks and ideas, culminating in a recommendable 2D platformer for established fans of the genre. Granted, I wish there was more of the main game, but this is a short, sweet adventure that doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's well appreciated. LazyPixel is giving Symphonia an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. LazyPixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
LazyPixel.